Hey, everybody. We're back with the author of Reading the Constitution. It is Justice Stephen Breyer. If it pleases the court, in the non-hypothetical presidential immunity arguments, okay, coming up in April, Politico, okay, this is about perception of the court, which I'm sure matters to you. Politico says only 24% of people trust SCOTUS to issue a fair and nonpartisan ruling. Okay, is the fear that the public has of political influence in the court valid? And is the court's fear that the public will no longer believe they're impartial valid?
I think that is a very good question for a particular reason. That's why I wrote this book.
Okay.
It is, because I wanted to show people that what most think, that this is all politics, that is not my experience. You never say zero about anything. Mm-hmm. But when I've been for 40 years with other judges and 28 on the Supreme Court, I think the people who try to get them appointed may have a lot to do with politics, but they want a judge who will think that the law really requires those things that then they politically like. But the judge's point of view is he or she is deciding according to law. And that's why I write this, because I want to say it isn't a question of what the judge just likes or doesn't like. It isn't a question of just politics. It is a question of what approach you use. You say, do you just read text? Or do you look back to the values and purposes and consequences of the Constitution or what we're about in this country? Which of those do you choose? And I think that's important and does make a difference. And that's what people should focus on. And that's why I try to explain here what that consists of, how they might focus on it, and why it might make a difference to your life and my life and a life of every American. And I hope for the better.
I would hope for the better, too. And my follow-up, Your Honor, is that I agree that I'm sure that justices have a judicial philosophy through which they read the Constitution. But to believe that there is no partisan backing a judgment into the result you want, if they were always consistent on their judicial philosophy and always consistently textualist, do you find that to be the case? That your fellow justices are always consistent in the lens they use to judge the constitutionality of a case?
You aim at it and you never know if you get there. Of course people are influenced by their backgrounds. Of course they're influenced by the lives they've had, by the philosophy they have. But suppose that you, not you, it wouldn't be you personally, but that you were an unpopular person. Impossible. But suppose
Can't be
you
done,
were.
but go ahead, yes.
But an unpopular person's in front of a judge for a trial.
Yes.
You don't want that judge to be influenced by how the public feels about that person. You don't want a judge to be influenced by popular opinion when he's judging a case. But what Professor Freund said, great professor at Harvard Law School, a great professor, and he said the way that politics works in the court is this: no judge, not you or me or anyone else, should ever be influenced by the political temperature of the day. But every judge will and probably should be influenced by the climate of the era. A little profound, a little obscure, but the more you think about that phrase, the more it sort of rings a bell in my mind.
Doesn't seem obscure at all. I mean, especially since we know that climate change is real. In what way is the climate changing the court? I guess what I'm asking, where is the flooding happening in the Supreme Court? Is it in democracy? Is it in free speech rights? Where is the flooding up there? Where do you need waiters when you're talking in the Supreme Court?
Go back into the past for a second, and you will know, and probably most of the people who are listening will know, that there was a big change in the court at the time of the New Deal. Those cases which were there that said that Congress could not legislate a minimum wage or a maximum hour, those cases were gone. And instead, we were living not in prosperity, we were living in depression. And the court had to change to allow the Congress to pass more laws that they hoped, Roosevelt hoped, would get us out of the depression. That was a change in a lot of the ways they looked at the words in the Constitution. Before that, that word property had a lot of weight. After that, control through agencies, control by Congress had much more weight. That's a big change.
There's a lot of pressure to change that back right now.
That's right. And so I end the book with that question. And you know what my answer is? Oh, you're not going to like this.
What?
My answer is, I don't know. And I don't, and there are reasons, and no one knows. There's time. You're appointed to the Supreme Court tomorrow.
I am.
It'll take you 5 years. Take you 5 years, 3 years, some years before you get used to it. And I was told by a president, the applause dies away very fast. And you're left with the job. And you better do that job well and like it. And that's the privilege of the court, that you have a job where you can, like a doctor, you don't stop paying attention when you just have an unusual case. You pay more attention. You pay attention to every case, you give what you have, you do your best. Now, that's the privilege of the job as you get older. And you try to do it. You try to live up to it. And that's why I say the new judges have time. They can see what might work and what might not. And the old judges have had that on anyway.
Well, you would know. I'm not going to fight you.
All right.
Speaking of your retirement, you know, when I was talking to you last time and you said that, you know, should you retire, what you want to do is cook more. We made a joke about that on the show. And we made a prop of that actual joke to give you tonight. This is your new cookbook. It is From Torts to Torts, How I Stopped Approaching the Bench and Started Approaching the Bunt. Stephen Breyer, we would love to give this to you as a thank you for being here.
Thank you.
But remind everybody, his new actual book is Reading the Constitution, Why I Chose Pragmatism, Not Textualism. Justice Stephen Breyer. Thank you so much, sir. Now, if you don't mind, don't leave me. We'll be right back with golfer Justin Thomas.